Good morning, everybody. BDO 44 coming at you with another video, fresh off of doing homework on the Detroit Pistons, who we play tonight at 4:30 Pacific, early game, and 7:30 Eastern. And Laker fans, we have a team that turns the ball over quite a bit. We're looking at tonight, so we should be able to get our opportunities there. Play a little defense, and they're going to get the ball to you, man. That's what I've seen. But there's one thing that does need to be said. They are not a bad offensive rebounding team just the same. They've given themselves second chance points here and there, especially against the Miami Heat about 3 games ago, where they had like 19 of them, 19 offensive rebounds as a team. Beef Stew had 7 on his own, and Jalen Duren had 4 himself. So we have got to keep those two off of the offensive glass. That's one thing I do know. Detroit is a team that's had a lot of shooting issues in the past. Of course, they were the worst team in the league last year by far, setting records of the worst kind. A lot of it had to do with their spacing. Well, they've taken care of that this year by adding a couple of shooters. Malik Beasley is with them now. Tim Hardaway Jr. is there. Tobias Harris, Simone Fantasio. So they have a few shooters down there that they can rely upon. They've really been shooting the ball pretty well. Of course, Malik Beasley shoots well for everybody but the Lakers. He was hitting all kinds of shots in the highlights that I was watching here. They've had some games where they've struggled. They're 2-5. They won their last one against the Brooklyn Nets, where they most famously had to take the train to the station to the game because ultimately there was some type of I think a marathon was going on or something like that, so they weren't able to drive their bus or what have you. But they did go into Brooklyn and get the victory. And, it was a tough shooting night for Cam Thomas on the other side. They were able to kind of take advantage of that and get the win there. They've played against the Boston Celtics, which was a really close game. Even though Boston got out to a scorching 3-point start, they ultimately just fell shy in the fourth quarter with a valiant effort. They played the New York Knicks. The game before the Brooklyn Nets game was the New York Knicks. The Celtics game, I believe, was before that. But the Knicks game was awful. I watched only half of the highlights. It was that bad. They lost by like 30-something. The Knicks just jumped out on top of them and stayed on top of them. Detroit is not the greatest defensive team, so we should be able to have plenty of opportunities scoring on them tonight. That should not be a problem. Tobias Harris needs to not be forgotten. He's really played well. I'm fresh off the highlights of like 4 games ago where they got the victory against the Philadelphia 76ers. Tobias Harris had a double-double. He really shined in that particular matchup against his old squad. So that's kind of what it is. I just been watching highlights from that team. I didn't watch the highlights from the Heat game where they had all them offensive rebounds. But just about all those other games that I mentioned, I did get a chance to watch the highlights on. And, got to pay attention to, of course, their backcourt, Jaden Ivey and Cade Cunningham, who are both very good players. Cade is incredible, an all-star level player who's going to get a lot of shots up. And Jaden Ivey spent a lot of time driving at the rim. And most of the highlights I saw, he's driving. His three-point ball is starting to improve as well. That's not a strength of his, but he's getting a little better at it. So they're a much improved basketball team, even though their defense is horrible. They do crash the glass pretty well, and they're not horrible shooters. They don't shoot the 3 ball at a nice percentage. They usually attempt about 36 of them, kind of shooting in the 30% or under kind of range. Not really a good shooting team, but they have capable shooters, and that's what we need to pay attention to, obviously, going up against guys like Beasley and Fantasio and Harris, as already mentioned, Hardaway, of course, and Cunningham, who could also shoot the 3 very well. So, this is a bad team. I'm not going to play around about it. They are improved, but they're still a long way away from being very good. But they do have a lot of talent, man. And Jalen Duren is playing well right now. He's coming off a monster game. I think he had like 4 blocks, a bunch of boards. This is a monster mammoth of a young man, and we're going to have to deal with him with our size issues and the situation we got going on with our center position. I think that this could potentially be a trap game if we don't find a way to body up with a guy like Jalen Duren. He's going to give us a lot of trouble. Beef Stew, obviously. That's Isaiah Stewart, for those who are wondering what I'm talking about. That's a forward down there that is known for pushing people around. He had the infamous incident with LeBron James about 3 years ago where he was trying to take LeBron's head off after LeBron drew blood in his mouth somehow. I don't remember how it happened, but he saw blood and then he wanted to see blood, and that's kind of how that went. So, you know, got to keep an eye open for Beef Stew. He does have some anger issues. He really does, but he's a heck of a rebounding piece and can shoot the three a little bit as well. Inside presence, not overly athletic by any means, but definitely strong, very strong guy. So, you know, this is a situation where I think Anthony Davis and LeBron James should really be able to push past these dudes for the most part. I mean, obviously Jalen Duren is a hell of a big player who's going to be a problem, but I don't think he's quite where he's going to be in terms of skill. He's kind of run, jump, dunk kind of guy right now, but he is a ferocious shot blocker and somebody who I'm pretty sure is going to be the first and last line of defense against Anthony Davis, which tells me Anthony Davis should be able to eat his lunch rather easily tonight. And so that's what I'm looking for. We had a big game from our starters in the last one. Bron and AD really played well, but of course we ended up giving back a 27-point lead and got outworked by the Toronto Raptors in the second half in a really, really embarrassing way. Barely got out of there with a win. So, fresh off of that game, we want to come in and take this team seriously. I thought we took Toronto seriously, but we just didn't bring the energy that would allow for us to keep our lead. And of course, a lot of that had to do with our bench, but you know, the lead was given back by our starters. So we just gotta, you know, play 48 minutes of good ball against the Detroit Pistons, and I do expect Lakers will win. But we do have some players over there in Detroit that can have big games, much bigger games than what their previous lineup last year was capable of providing. A guy like Tobias Harris, Cade Cunningham, Jaden Ivey, they're all capable. Tim Hardaway, you name it. You know, Beasley's going to want to shoot well against us. So these are type of things that we just need to be ready for tonight. Don't take this team for granted. Don't expect they're just going to roll over necessarily. If you come out and play hard, I'm sure you'll beat them. But if you come out and play soft, they got guys who could go off. And that is the reality of it, man. Cade Cunningham is more than capable of putting up a MVP line against you. More than capable. Jaden Ivey is a guy who can go for 25, 5, and 6. Like, these are lines that they can go for. They're going to give up a lot, but they're going to be able to produce a lot too. And if anybody's having a big game, watch out. If a number of them are having a big game at the same time, you can lose. And so that's what the Detroit Pistons have shown me in these highlights. You know, they played really well against that Boston team, and they barely lost. And that's the NBA champions right there. So having a hot shooting night at that. So just be aware. They all it takes is a couple of those players to have good games for you to be in a tight basketball game if you don't defend. So rebounding is important. Forcing them into turnovers is extremely important. That's one thing that I can say they had trouble with. The Miami Heat really put a lot of defense on them. I think it was something like 14 steals that turned into like 22 turnovers or something like that. It was, you know, defense to offense is the way to go against the Detroit Pistons. They're going to get a ball up. And so, you know, they tasted victory against the Brooklyn Nets in their last game. I'm sure they want to keep that going. Obviously, they were fresh off the huge Knicks loss, so they know who they are. But at the end of the day, this is already on par to being a significantly greater season than last year, to say the least, where they only won like probably 10 games, something like that. It was real bad last year. So also it's noteworthy to say that they could potentially have Ausar Thompson back tonight, just like everybody else. He wants to come back against the Lakers. He's fresh off of blood clotting that kept him out, a rather serious issue to say the least, just like Koloko. So, you know, if he does make his return tonight, it's just one more player that's going to try to make their return against the Lakers, just like, as I said, everyone else. So be ready for their defense to be better and their athleticism to be heightened if he's on the floor. This is an extremely talented player with a whole lot of capability, both assisting the basketball to others and defending the basketball. And of course, his athleticism is out of this world. So if Ausar is on the floor, it changes the dynamic of this team. He's not a great 3-point shooter, but I think he's improving and should project to be a decent one later on. So, I don't know that he'll play, but he's a game time decision. It's the first time he's been at that status all season. So that is something to pay attention to for the Los Angeles Lakers. Austin Reeves said he wants to play 82. I'd imagine he's playing 82. He's a game time decision. He rolled his ankle, falling. He's been getting banged up on this road trip. But unless there's something extremely wrong, he's going to want to go. So I expect him to go. Braun and AD are playing tonight, I believe. I don't see any reason why they wouldn't. I don't remember if they were on the injury report or not. Maybe game time decisions, but I'm sure they'll go. Who else is on there? I think D'Lo's still dealing with the back, but I'm pretty sure he'll go. We're still waiting on Koloko to come back, as we already mentioned. With the blood clotting, he's been cleared. Now we're just looking to have him in G League play right now, trying to get his conditioning going. I think he'll be joining the team rather soon, given the fact the situation with Jackson Hayes is now trending. Of course, he got in some real trouble about 3 years ago. We talked about it on the channel a couple nights ago, but it's not going to go away. His situation off the court is going to be serious, and it could potentially have lasting effects upon him going forward. So I'm not sure how much Jackson Hayes we're going to see. He may play tonight, but I don't know what the Lakers and the NBA are going to have to do in regards to his off the court situation. So I think a lot of Laker fans, after seeing the footage that's going around, are kind of out on Jackson. Which it is what it is. This stuff happened before he got here, but at the same time, the footage comes out of you doing something that you had no business doing domestically, and you're gonna lose a lot of people. So I'd imagine he's gonna see some folks change on him, and I'd expect on the road the boos will come if he's on the floor tonight. The Lakers really can't afford for him not to be. To be honest with you, our center position is so thin at this point, especially since Koloko's not here. We let Castleton walk. So we really don't have the center position. Obviously, Christian Wood still not back. Vanderbilt, same thing. So we're thin, and we really do need Jackson Hayes. He's one of the 4 players we use on our bench, and one of our better rebounders. So it's gonna be tough if we ultimately are not having him on the roster right now. So we'll see what the Lakers do. I haven't heard anything about him being a game time decision or suspended or anything, but you never know with situations like this. One has to be ready for that type of news. So we'll keep our eyes open there. That's really what it is, man. And of course, we got a lot of guys in the G League. Jalen Hood-Schifino's down there. We know who's all down there. Quincy Olivari. I was hoping they would call up Quincy. I haven't heard of anything like that, but that would probably be for the best for our roster right now to have him a part of it. Mel Traore still down there with the G League as well. So that's what it is. We're still very short-handed. We're probably only going to play like 3 people off our bench tonight or something like that, which is not ideal, man. We really do need a full bench unit. We talk about it often. Rui Hachimura's kind of struggled on this road trip after having a blazing start to the season. So I'd like to see him get it going tonight. A player I compare him to in Tobias Harris is on the floor tonight. I'd love to see him outplay Tobias. So that's a key matchup to pay attention to. Rui's been better on the defensive end, much better on the glass. So I see the improvement in Rui, but the shot has to be consistent. The scoring has to be consistent. He can't get lost out there. His scoring is imperative for our success and for the maintaining of leads. So that's something I'm paying attention to. Hopefully we can get a big game out of the young fella, Dalton Connect, off of the bench. We really need him to get going. Much has been said about him struggling on this road trip. The only time he really broke out was in the Cleveland game, where the game was already out of hand. So we need Dalton Connect to get his going a bit sooner, and a lot of that has to do with the coaching, how he uses him and how he features him. But we're gonna need his shot for the rest of this road trip, and it's been a struggle. It's been a real struggle for the rookie on this road trip. So yeah, man, Anthony Davis still playing NBA championship level MVP type basketball right now. He's just gonna need the help that'll help him do it, man. We got to the line a million times against Toronto, and it saved us. And that's kind of what the recipe for us is to just get to the line repeatedly, and hit our free throws, for which we've been a pretty good free throw shooting team this year. Um, Austin Reeves did the same thing, even though he wasn't efficient from the field. He got to the line, pretty much hit almost all his free throws, and that really was the difference in the Toronto game. So I'd imagine we're going to try to keep that going. That's a recipe for success for us. Braun's three ball fell really well in that Toronto game, but it has been coming and going a little bit on this road trip, so we need him to have another big game. We can't have another game like we did against whoever that was when we first started the road trip. I believe it was somebody in the Western Conference that we saw. It was Phoenix. Had a really bad LeBron game. And so, he's kind of shaking off that rust that was in that particular game, and it started to play well throughout the course of this road trip. So we needed another great Braun performance. And we're just dragging through the road, man. It's been tough. The team has been in Canada for the last couple of days. They finally touched down in Detroit, I believe, yesterday. So this Jackson Hayes news came out while they were out of the country. That's kind of awkward, but it is what it is, man. The team, I believe, knew about this. The front office certainly knew about this. I don't know that they knew they had footage of the circumstance, but I just think that it's really unfortunate that all of this came about in the timing that it did when we had just let go of Castleton. Still waiting on Koloko. We really need Jackson Hayes. He's been one of our more productive bench unit players right now, and I just hope that if he's out there, he's not so distracted, or that this situation didn't bring such a distraction to the team that we would drop a game against the Detroit Pistons. This is an important game to win because it's one of the ones we're expected to win. It's a road game. So you want to try to take care of these, because other games against Western Conference foes, it may not be as guaranteed, in terms of the type of talent you're going up against. So we know we can beat the Pistons. Even this new improved version of the Pistons is still a team that we believe we can get victories against. So this is a night where you want to win. You don't want any letdowns. I understand they got Herbert Harris and Ivy and Cunningham who could really play well, but you do not want any letdowns tonight. You got to come with it, bring the energy early, try to get a big lead, and then from there, do a much better job of trying to hold on to it. That's what it is, man. It's one thing for the Lakers to get leads. We've been getting big leads against a lot of people, but have we been able to keep any of these leads? The answer is no. We always give them back. We always end up having close games afterwards. We owe ourselves a blowout. And with everything being a distraction, quote unquote, I would love to see this team come out with a certain heightened level of focus to try to offset that notion that this Jackson situation is a distraction situation. So that's what I want to see, man. The Lakers are going to be wearing their purple road uniforms tonight. The Pistons are going to be wearing their traditional wear white and blues, the white uniforms there. And, Detroit basketball, it's going to be that type of environment. We definitely know that. This is a proud bunch of people, even though they've lost a whole lot recently. They still have NBA championships, including 2 that they won against us. So it's always a heightened thing when the Lakers are in town, and we should always want to provide losses to their organization for taking championships from us. So that's something that needs, to be on our mind, man. This is a prideful matchup. I wouldn't say it's a rivalry, but we have history and lots of it. And so that's what it really comes down to. We definitely want to beat up on Detroit. And, try to have a really solid record on this road trip. That's really what it is. We are 2-1, I think, on this road trip. It's a 5-game road trip. We will play the Memphis Grizzlies up next to complete the road trip. We're 3-1. That's how that goes. 3-1, and then we'll be finishing off with the road trip tomorrow. No, 2-1. Tonight's the 4th game. Gotta get that right. 2-1. Tonight's the 4th game, and then we will finish off that road trip in Memphis. So we don't want to overlook the Pistons because we know the Memphis is a big matchup. We know that. But the Pistons provide plenty of problems, especially if you're going to come in with the same intensity you did against Toronto, trying to, just kind of drag them through the second half. That's not going to cut it tonight, just like it was barely able to cut it against Toronto. So we got to bring the energy, man. Got some ex-Lakers over there like Malik Beasley who are going to want to play well. And it's important. It's very important that we get this road win on the road, in the Eastern Conference, rather. So that's really what it is, man. Expect them to drive into the paint. They're not a great paint team, but Jaden Ivey spends a good portion of his time just laying the ball up, dunking the ball, all types of stuff like that. So expect for dribble penetration to be a real thing for them, and just take advantage of some real porous defense. If Asure's on the floor, it may improve their defense some, but they really have a bunch of offensive players. They're not really looking to sit in the chair too much, so we should be able to get what we want out of them. D'Lo, I'd like to see him improve on this road trip. He had a pretty good game against Toronto. Definitely hit some big shots in the fourth quarter, so that was the best game we've seen from D'Lo. He usually plays well in Eastern Conference matchups. He usually plays well against lesser teams. So this is a night I would expect D'Lo to have a lot of confidence, and, hopefully the shots fall tonight. Hopefully they do. But he is going to have somebody rather quick going up against him, I think, in Ivy if they match up that way. Or Cunningham, who's a big guard, who's obviously capable of going for 1 million points by himself. So you just don't want to take Ivy or Cunningham lightly. That's really what I got to say, especially Cunningham. Any night could be a night Cunningham goes for 50 points. That's what it is. It's not something you expect, but he's one of those guys with that type of elevator to where he can hit the game-winning shot. He can go for 8 threes. Like he was the first overall pick many years ago, and even though he had some injury issues, he is playing at a level that you must respect right now. So that's what I got to say. Cade Cunningham, have him circled, because if he plays like a superstar tonight, it's a different Detroit team, and he's more than capable of doing that, whether they're winning or losing. So that's that, man. Be careful with the offensive glass. Be careful. We got to win the glass tonight, and they do have capable rebounders, very capable rebounders. Jalen Duren is a powerful dude. I can't stress it enough. Be very, very aware of Jalen Duren coming off a really big game. He can go for 20 rebounds. He can go for 5 blocks. He's a great lob threat, and we really are kind of thin with that center position. So if anybody, I would say, could catch us off guard tonight, that would probably be the name that comes to mind. He's surging in the right direction. So be very aware of big dog Jalen Duren. I think he's only 22 years old, but he is an absolute man. So we need to be ready for him tonight. And what else, man? Bobby Clintman is not playing tonight. He's on the injury report as out. That was a rookie that they just picked up in the second round. He's pretty talented, but he is out. And that's pretty much what it is, man. I hope all of our guys who are game time decisions are able to go. We need as much depth as possible in this road trip to finish off this thing, especially while we have everything going on with Jackson Hayes. I do not know what to expect from our team other than to say hopefully we're not distracted, and hopefully we're ready to go, man. That's really what it is. That trap game against the Toronto Raptors, we were very lucky to win it. And we need to understand that was a bad team that we almost lost to. They played well, but they're a bad team. They're a tanking team. This is another one. We got to get the gimmies, man. This is a gimme game we should be able to get. So don't let it be a trap game. Come in with the focus necessary. Respect their personnel. Know that you're on the road in the hostile territory, and make their team go home quiet. Make their fans go home quiet. That's what I got to say. So I appreciate everybody for watching BDF 44. Of course, we'll be ready for this game at 4:30. And that's pretty much it. Peace.